So welcome to our cooking with our Dutch oven over coals. And I can smell the biscuits cooking. I've got a video to show you. I made stew and I also made a peach cobbler over wood coals when my grandkids were here. And so we'll watch that video too. But right now I am making biscuits and gravy because that's a very common traditional Texas meal that is pretty easy to do. So welcome everyone. Like I said, you guys probably have a lot more experience than I do. We did a lot of camping when our kids were little over on the Oregon coast. And we had a camping box that was a little kitchen. It had everything in it that you could ever want to cook over an open fire and on the Coleman stoves. So we did a lot of that. Not so much Dutch oven, except for when the scouts went camping and that kind of thing. So how many of you have ever cooked with a Dutch oven before?
Only on a stove.
Only on the stove, right.
I have on a campfire, but it's been a long time ago.
Okay. This Dutch oven, and when you guys look for one, you'll want one with feet on it. And so it doesn't work so easily in a kitchen oven, but the reason is you want it to stand up above the coals, okay? So look for one on that. And I can smell those biscuits. I think they are hot on the bottom. Let me rotate that around. It says you're supposed to rotate the pot to get an even coating. I've lined it with parchment paper also, and that should help lift the biscuits out. I've got this nifty hook that I use to lift. Oh, okay. So it looks like it's cooking at the bottom more than it is on the top, but that's okay. So I'm going to just turn the pot, rotate it. Not really rotate it. There we go. Okay. So, my experience the other day is, and I'll show you in this video, is on wood coals. It's really hard to get it level. Briquettes, it's a science. The recipe will tell you 10 briquettes on the bottom and 16 on top, and have it checkerboard fashion and have it just so you get a 350-degree oven. And we're supposed to be doing that with these biscuits and cooking it from the top down. And right now they're cooking from the bottom up, so it makes me feel like, ooh, I think the coals on the bottom were a little too hot maybe. But we just don't, it's all kind of a guessing game. You eat burnt food when you're going out in the camping, right? The other thing that happened to me when I was cooking on the coals, on the wood that I used instead of briquettes, is that it got tipsy. And so some of the juice of the stew spilled out and boiled out over. And so I had to replace that, and I'll show you that in the video. Boy, Dutch ovens have been around forever. The new Dutch ovens, the new enamelware that you get from Lodge, the cast iron, is already seasoned, and it comes with a coating. And in the olden days, you had to just put your cast iron in the oven as soon as you got it with grease all over it, and turn it upside down and stick it in the oven for a good couple hours to cook, to season it. And they come already seasoned now, which is really nice. Okay, I'm going to try to remove these coals. I love this little mitt. My daughter got it for me, and it just protects my hands so well. Okay. You guys see that? You see those biscuits? Yay. Okay. So now while those cool off a little bit, I got the sausage that I'm going to brown in there. the versatile things about a really easy recipe for desserts or cobblers. And you can do all sorts of meats. Let me bring you over. I'm going to try to bring you over so you can see. You tell me when.
Almost. There
Most?
you go.
There, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. This is going to brown really quickly. I've got some dehydrated onions in this sausage. I use Jimmy Dean, so I don't think we're going to have a lot of trouble with too much fat. Any questions while I'm doing this? Handouts that I sent you, the first one, the Hello Campers or whatever, it is really good. And that's a library book. So you can put that on reserve if you want and check that out. It's full of desserts and all sorts of things. I also got some recipes from a heritage cookbook, a church cookbook that I belong to, and also I have this one cookbook called Cowboys and Cowgirls, or Cowgirl Cooking. And so that's where I got my ideas for today's class. You guys still see that? Tell me if I can't see the camera. So
You're perfect.
Perfect.
okay. That's browning really nicely. You see the biscuits over there?
Can't see the biscuits.
Okay.
We saw them earlier.
All inside when we're done.
Debbie, where did you get your pit?
My pot, my Dutch oven,
No, the pit itself.
The pit.
mitt.
Yeah.
He doesn't Paul pit.
Your barbecue pit.
Oh, the barbecue pit. Sorry, HEB.
Oh, okay.
HEB has everything.
And
Like
it's
how
been
much?
a few years. It's already rusted, but
Like
it's
how
been
much more or
great.
less?
I love the
Run my
extra
class.
shelf that you have on top.
Here.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna have to put you down. Gotta get the flour.
Come. I want to see the cold pits at the bottom. The coal at the bottom.
Okay. So I'm gonna sprinkle flour on there. Can you still see it?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Perfect.
There's no oil. That's not.
You guys know how this goes. You've done a meal like this. But it's fun to do it over a campfire. Okay. And I'm gonna add the milk. And I've already dissolved, I used that liquid bouillon from Costco, you know, the creamy stuff.
Yes, better
So
than
I
beef.
already put it in the milk.
You have to warm the milk, maybe?
No.
Oh,
And I noticed that a lot of it didn't come out. Let me see if I can spoon that out. I set you on the edge of the barbecue pit, but it might be hot. You guys, my laptop would melt, and then I owe the library a laptop. That would not be good. Okay. So the flour on this should cook and thicken up. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. going to take you inside and then it'll be a normal class once we get this done. Oh, look at that. Oh, there's some really good dark bits. I think it's those onions that got toasted. And it's turning kind of a golden brown. I have no idea what color it's showing up for you guys.
It's getting yellowish, yes.
Okay. I think I'm just going to leave that. That looks done. Okay, I'm going to put the lid back on. And it's just going to stay warm until my family gets home tonight. Okay, so there's a couple things I brought out to show you. Let me, I need to put butter on the biscuits. You guys see the biscuits?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. There's a whole other slew of biscuits that I'll have to cook later. So I used 2 different recipes for the biscuits. One recipe had club soda and buttermilk, and that's where you get the rise that's so beautiful here on these biscuits. And it calls for butter on top. The other recipe came with the sausage recipe. I'll point out the recipes to you. Now, let's look and see how dark the bottom is, because I am a little bit concerned it cooked a little bit on the bottom. Oh yeah, see, my coals were too hot on the bottom. Can you see that?
I'll come get them off your hands for you.
Okay. So what would you do in that case? Do you just take
Well, I
move a
just
few
cut off
coals?
the bottoms and serve them, because you're just gonna split them and put gravy over it anyway.
But
So
I
I
mean,
would just-
to keep it from getting too hot, do you just use
Oh.
fewer coals?
Oh, you know, I think I could smell it cooking a little much, and I should have moved it off the coals a little bit. Okay, I'm gonna take you inside. Is that I did spray the parchment paper with oil, and it didn't call for that. That might have overheated and cooked them too quickly. So that could have been the problem too. But they're fine. I'll just cut the tops off. We'll still eat them. Okay, so here are the books from the handout. Oh, there's some equipment I wanted to share with you. So this is called the Of Glove. Have you ever seen one of these? It allows you to grab the rack in your oven as you're pulling it out and really hang on to things. And I had a daughter that was very scared of the oven. So we bought this, and I'm able to lift off the lid out there. It protects it so well, okay? The other thing is, I don't know if you've ever seen these fire starter squares. Okay. We use these a lot. It says it's safe for around food, and it is basically a wax coated fiberboard, I guess. And all you need is that much to start your little fire. You just light it on the edge, a rough edge, and it takes off. So that's really nice. I didn't use that today because I've got the chimney and I wanted to just, you know, see how the chimney worked. The other thing, that little hook I was using is a pail hook for painting from Home Depot. I could take the other end of that and screw that in an eye hook in a stick that would be easier to lift up. If I did a stick across and that was hanging down. But so that's $2 at Home Depot, really inexpensive. The chimney starter I got at HEB for $10. You always want to get briquettes that don't have the magic lighting in it. Okay, do not use that because it can contaminate the food. Okay, and you just want to use plain charcoal briquettes, and actually they're on sale right now, maybe for the 4th of July, but they're 40% off, just their briquettes, a bag of briquettes. So that's nice. And you can use some wood. Some of the recipes may tell you to use like a hickory or something. And that's okay. It will flavor your meat. And you can smoke things, give it a smoky flavor if you wrap it, soak the wood chips, the flavored wood chips, like apple wood or something like that, and then wrap it in foil and then poke holes in the foil and throw that in on the briquettes, okay? So that can give you a smoky flavor if you have the lid off. Obviously, it won't do it if the lid's on, but if you have a lid off and you're frying something, it might do that. But you can do that in your grill too. So that's another thing. So the idea of the chimney is that you just crumple some newspaper underneath, and then there's a kind of a plate, and then you load the briquettes in there on top of that, and I did about 30 briquettes. You can get two big batches of coals out of one bag. So you can do 2 different dinners out of one bag, okay? So just think of it that way. If you're cooking how many meals, then you need, you know, a bag for every 2 meals, basically. So that's good to know.
So, I'm sorry, are you putting the briquettes in the chimney part?
Yeah, you put the briquettes and you pile them in the chimney part, and then and you light the paper underneath and leave it alone. And in 15 to 20 minutes, you have instant briquettes that are all ashy around the edges, you know, because they're stacked vertically.
So
The
where do
heat's
you
going to
put
go up.
Where do
I'm
you
sorry?
put your pot? Where do you put your pot?
Oh, you take it out of that. Once those have, you just put it in there for a little while to get going, and then you take your briquettes out and you pour. I poured out 10 and put it on the bottom of the pot, of the pit, then put the pot down, and then I kept some more in the chimney, and then I poured the rest that was in the chimney onto the lid. Okay.
Just
So
a fire starter. Yeah,
it's a fire starter. Thank you. That's the word I needed.
right.
It's a fire
Okay.
starter. Yes. Okay.
So how do you get them out of the chimney?
I poured it.
So
handle-
the chimney's not
There's a
hot?
wood. There's a
there's a
wood handle.
Okay.
I'll go get it. There's a wood handle.
Let's just see this thing. Pour up.
She's very informative.
Mhm.
Yeah. So can you see it? There's a wood
Gotcha.
handle right here.
Okay.
So you put the paper underneath, put the briquettes on top, light it through the holes, and I lit it all the way around so that it would burn really quickly, evenly, and it just takes off, and it just is wonderful. It's so easy to do. Okay.
Just dump them all like that.
So as long as you're holding on to the wood, it's not hot. If you try to touch the side of that, you're going to burn your little fingers off. So that's the only thing you have to be careful of. Let's see. I think we can watch that video now, unless you guys have other. Oh, let me just show you real quick. So a lot of the recipes came from the Lodge cast iron book that I got with the cast iron Dutch oven. I bought my Dutch oven over at Craig's Lumber. Okay. They have a whole section of Lodge cookware. So that was nice. And so you got a copy of a lot of those recipes. There's just 2 out of the Cowgirls cookbook. Okay. And then here's the one that belongs to the library. It's Hungry Campers, Cooking Outdoors for 1 to 100. So it had a lot of really good recipes. And that's on your handout. It's upside down on your handout. Sorry about that, but I think you can still read it. But you can go ahead and reserve it. It's got everything in here. It talks about, I think I even included some of the tips for Dutch oven cooking. On page 89, let's see. Yeah, so cooking at the right temperature. I don't know if this is coming out correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Obviously I don't do story time. Cooking at the right temperature. So you'll see a whole chart in your handout of how many briquettes, what fire, the size of your Dutch oven or frying pan, how many briquettes, and everything. So there's a little formula box, okay, right there that'll help you. And then also doing special things about taking care of your cast iron. Every time you wash your cast iron pot, you just, when you're out camping, it's really odd. You can just take salt and paper towel or a scrubby and just scrub the pot and it's good to go. And then you grease it, condition it after you've used it. I condition mine every time, even my cast iron skillet that I cook on my stove, I oil it every time. You're not supposed to use soap, okay? So when you're cleaning it, you don't want to sit it in the sink and fill it up with water and let it soak. So I burnt something the other day and I just had to sit there and scrub it till it was clean because I couldn't leave the water in there. That you'll cause rusting if you do that. And we don't want it to rust. Rust is the enemy. The other thing is you can find old cast iron at garage sales and recondition them. You can use the whole, bake it in your oven, you know, coat it with grease, scrub all the rust spots off, and keep doing that until it's conditioned. And you can recondition old cast iron. It just never goes away. One problem I had last year was I used a cast iron skillet. It probably wasn't the name brand, it wasn't Lodge. And that's probably what happened. It was a cheap, maybe metal. On one of those induction cooktops at the library, and it cracked. It just, I could hear it pop and it separated. So I don't know if it's temperature sensitive, all of them, but I might have done something wrong, like put cold liquid in it or something to make it, I can't remember. Anyway, oh, then the last book is a really cool one that someone donated actually to the library. And it's called Better Homes and Gardens Heritage Cookbook. So if you want to learn everything about all the different immigrant cooking in the US, this is the cookbook for you. It's got a lot of different things. And so the section I did was the chuck wagon section, crossing the plains and all that. And so you'll see bean recipes and things like salted pork and in your handout that are just interesting to read. And so if you're looking for food prep, emergency preparedness kind of stuff, you might look at that chuck wagon, the chuck wagon recipes that I included. So I did a picture of all these cookbooks and then the recipes follow in your handout, okay? So you'll be able to find the recipes I'm talking about, okay? And that's, if you didn't get the second section of it, I've sent it in 2 emails. If you didn't get that, just let me know and I can resend it to anybody. Okay, so let me share my screen. We're gonna watch, it's I think 5 minutes of Dutch oven cooking that I did. I'm gonna talk over it. I did it a couple weeks ago when my grandkids were in town. They thought it was a lot of fun. Okay. And let me move it. I need to get it big.
Looks like you're on wood in this.
I am. I used wood. We live on 30 acres, so I just grabbed some wood and watched how it did. Now, I'm going to tell you, the fire is way too hot. I should have waited a lot longer for the coals to burn down, but we had grandkids that were hungry, so we had to get this going. But it still worked fine. The only trouble was that as the coals burnt down, the pot went angled like that, and some of the liquid fell out. So yes, it is wood. So it's not as exact as coal. You just don't have the same, oh, that went fast. Okay. Here we are. I'm just using beef broth, beef stew. I heated the oil in the pan. So it looks like it's sitting flat now, but later on it really doesn't stay flat. Okay. there really should be more coals. So we added the floured meat that had salt and pepper on it, and we browned it on all sides. Make sure you use long-handled, you can hear it sizzling.
That's it, I need longer.
And then I added, so this is chuck beef, stew meat, and onions.
Here.
Mhm.
Now at this point, I don't want to cover it or it would never brown. We want the steam to escape. Okay, so then I added the seasoning packet. And if you don't want to use the seasoning packet, it's mostly paprika and tomato sauce and some onions and pepper. Oh, you can hear the grandkids. Okay. So then we added the potatoes and carrots. I sped this up so we wouldn't have to watch this too long.
Did you blanch the potatoes and carrots or not?
Did I peel them?
Did you blanch them?
No. Mm-mm. Nope, they're raw. So I think it took 2 boxes, or I guess I added water up to cover. See how much water? You want the water to cover, the broth and the water to cover the vegetables. Okay, so then we put coals on the lid. Basically, I put just branches on top. And it's amazing how hot that is and how quickly it cooked. I think it only cooked for maybe half an hour. I think I diced up one thing to remember is to dice your vegetables all the same size so they cook evenly. And so I did I chopped up the potatoes the same size as the carrots, okay? So then we lifted that off and don't ever sprinkle your ashes around. Okay, so there's a little bit of juice left, but a lot has come out. So I added more broth to it. And then I added a can of drained corn and a can of beans to it. So then the next one is a Dutch oven dessert over coals, and it's peach cobbler. Wait, let me go back, hold on. I have to explain something. Okay, so we got the stew. That turned out fine. Actually, it tastes really good. Somehow that meat picked up the coal flavoring of the wood. It was really good. Okay, so then onto the cobbler. Okay, so this is a dump cake. And just like these biscuits, I use club soda as a leavening. This one requires a whole can of lemon lime soda, like 7-Up or Sprite, okay? And you just mix it with the dry cake mix. That's it, okay? And then it just makes this wonderful. So you put the brown sugar, the peaches, drained peaches down on the bottom, and then put the cake mix over the top. So that's what it was. Yeah.
Cake mix?
Cake mix, white cake mix.
White.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, white cake mix. Okay, so you do 2 cans of peaches in heavy syrup, and this is in your book. It's the one from my church, modified, but there's one in the Lodge cookbook that's very similar. Okay, I just don't think they added the brown sugar, and we like our sugar. What can I say? Okay, the other hint I'm going to give you is to use extra thick aluminum foil. And there is a Pitmaster aluminum foil. Have you guys seen that? Do you want-
Yes, they have it at ABB.
Yes. Yes.
It's like $14 a roll.
What? No, really?
The
No.
one I have gotten is, and it is heavy, heavy. It's a huge roll though.
It is a huge roll. Let me see if I can find one.
Pitmaster.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say,
Okay.
but it's so like that.
So it's right here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, Pitmaster Choice, Reynolds wrap. And I want you to see, it's like those, it's almost as thick as those aluminum pie pans that you buy. It's really thick, okay? Really good stuff. So how you protect your pan and save yourself a gazillion hours of cleaning your pan is to line your whole Dutch oven with this foil. And you also cover the lid, okay? And you butter the bottom of the pan, all the foil, and you butter the lid too. And what that does is as the steam comes up, it's gonna melt that butter and drop it back down on the cake. So it adds flavoring to butter the lid. It's not that you're trying to, because it'll never rise so high that it touches the lid, but what you're getting is butter flavor on top of your cake, okay? So let's watch this.
It's interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. So you smear it with the butter. And then you put 1 cup of brown sugar in there. And this recipe is in the book, so you don't have to worry about it. So you just spread the brown sugar, and that's going to caramelize under there, and that's going to hit the coals first. You drain your peaches. I thought you use the peach juice, but you don't. So we're just getting the extra water off, okay? And then you pour that on top. Okay, and then you're going to beat your white cake mix. You're going to add the soda. And see how it just lifts that. It's like magic. It's like a volcano, the kids' volcano thing. So I'm actually stirring it down to get that bubbly stuff out. And then you pour the batter over.
Looks easy.
So this kind of thing is really fun to do with a large crowd. Then this is the back of the lid, and you butter that, and then you put it on, and out it goes to the oven. You guys can hear my grandkids in the background, sorry. So I set the oven on the coals. This is still the leftover coals from the stew. So I've spread the coals around so that it kind of cooks on the sides, and then I load it on top again to make an oven. And see, I can just grab that with that mitt, and it was okay. That mitt's amazing.
You need
Okay,
that.
so time to check it to see if it's done. There's a set time that the recipe tells you. I think it's, 20 minutes or something. I couldn't get the handle up. I didn't have my hook then, so I just had to use my hand. Okay, so the lid's a little too hot to lift with the mitt, so I had to get a prong thing, and there it is. There's your cake.
Wow.
That's
And
impressive.
it turned out okay. It wasn't burnt at all. It looks a little done on the outside, but that's the brown sugar. And so then I'm just dishing it up. You take it inside and spoon it in bowls. And so you've got peaches and cake, and all you need is ice cream on top. Or if you're out camping, you could do some Cool Whip or Dream Whip or something if you didn't want to use, what's that ice, dry ice? We've done that where we've taken the ice cream on dry ice and it stays frozen until dinner time. So anyway, so that's the end
Wonderful.
of that.
Good.
Yeah. So let me get out of that and stop my sharing. Okay. So that's what I've got to show you. There's a lot of non-meat recipes. I wanted to point that out, that you don't have to always be using meat. There's some really good cooking zucchini medley, like vegetable medley kind of things that you can make that works really well outside too. You don't always have to be cooking meat.
What's your
And-
favorite recipe over using the coals?
Okay, so when we used to go camping in Oregon, this is the one. I think my video's playing again. Hang on. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay, I had to shut off that video. We made up this. It's hamburger goulash kind of thing, and what we would do is we would actually cook the potatoes on the Coleman stove in water, just boiling them. But then we would crumble the hamburger in a Dutch oven over a fire, and onions. And then we would do the flour thing and then add milk. And so you're making a hamburger gravy,
Right.
but then you drain the potatoes that you've cooked on the Coleman stove. But I think maybe you could do little chunks and put it in the stew too and cook it. We would just do big slices. We like the slices. And then we'd throw that in the Dutch oven and then stir it. And it would break the potatoes up into small little pieces. And then we would dish that out and pour tons of ketchup over it. And that would be the kids' favorite meal. So
Right.
that one worked really well.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm excited to learn more about it. I've done a lot of Coleman stove camping kind of foods, but that's just like cooking on a stovetop. So that's kind of fake. Not fake, but easy. You know, as long as you've got the fuel. What did you say, Warren?
It's not as much fun as in the Dutch oven.
No, I kind of really like the smell of the wood. It really was infused in the food. So using wood was kind of fun. But I think also it's unpredictable. So you have to be careful about your temperature. Like I said, I started it way too hot and I should have waited. You know how you're impatient for s'mores, for those coals. I think I should have waited longer, but it worked out. It was fine. It was good.
Deb, my husband has the green egg, and
Yeah.
it has wood that he cooks with those chunks. So I think I'm
Yes.
going to try it on that.
Yeah. No, the green egg is wonderful. We've got one too, and you get your special briquettes for that over at Chuck's. Is it Chuck's Meats on 281 there? Chicks meat. Chicks. Yes.
That's where Bob gets.
We go down there to get our briquettes for the egg.
Okay.
Because you
Well,
don't.
that's
Yeah,
where
you
Bob,
don't use real wood on that, or you have to use these certain.
you have to
shaped
use a certain. Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I could see that you could put a Dutch oven on that easily.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, you could.
Mhm.
Especially because it's got the lid, and so then you've got that oven effect too, you know,
That is nice.
where it keeps it'll keep the temperature a more even temperature.
Mhm. It is easy to regulate with the little
Yeah, yeah.
thingy.
And this fire pit that we got at HEB, it has been wonderful because it's got that rim around the outside, so you can actually put your feet. You can get close to it and put your feet up on that rim, and it's not hot usually. And then all you have to do is lean over with your stick for your marshmallows.
Oh, I love it.
So it's kind of fun with the kids, the grandkids. But I do like the two-tier thing where it swivels open, because if something were to get too hot, you could swivel it out of the way and let
Okay.
it cool while you're cooking something else down in the pit. And you can keep it kind of warm up higher. That's the advantage of that, is it swivels in and out of the way.
Right.
Okay.
Well, that was awesome. Appreciate
Good
you.
job. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming. That was really short. I think, did we start at 3? That wasn't even an hour long. I guess when you're cooking that fast, you just got to zip through there. Any questions at all?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so when you say Dutch oven, I guess I was thinking of a deep frying pan, but it sounds like a Dutch oven to be a Dutch oven, it has to have the feet and then a flat lid. Is that right?
Yes, let me give you the picture. I have the box right here. Let me show you. But that's true.
When you go to the store, too,
It's in our Dutch oven in the kitchen. It's,
In the box.
I don't know, let me see. So
Yeah.
it's the Lodge, and mine is, there's 2 sizes. This is the 12-inch, and it's 6 quarts, and you can get a 14-inch that's even bigger. So if you're always cooking for a big crowd, you might want to go up the size to the 14-inch. It has, there's a little picture of the legs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that keeps it up so that you can have the briquettes. Now that doesn't mean that there are Dutch ovens that lodge cells that are flat bottomed. You still can use those, but just remember you're going to be sitting it on the coals. So maybe in that instance you would want a grate on top and then
Because
on top of the
air
coals.
between the legs there because you need air between the coals. For the
Yes.
fire needs air.
Okay, so that's why. So if you
I didn't
had,
hear what he said.
you need air between the coals to keep the fire going and
Oh,
keep them
okay.
burning. So
Alright.
if you were to smother it with the pot, then
Okay.
you know that. But again, you could maybe lay down a grit. I don't know if you could do this. Just lay down some sort of
Yeah, too.
thing. This has legs on it. You could try something like that if you have a flat iron, flat level pot. I would try that first before I spent the money on the Dutch oven. This was, I think, $80, but it's an investment.
Once you get one, it's lasts forever. Your
Yeah.
grandkids.
That's the thing.
Your grandkids.
That's the thing.
There'll still be non-stick.
Yeah. So this is an investment for preparation. I know that I have this extra eating source. You know, I've got lots of wood out there, so I know that I could always build a fire and cook something if I needed to. I'd have to catch the meat though.
Right. Okay, so the ones that are flat on the bottom, the lids are not flat. They're kind of slightly rounded. That's not going to work very well for putting coals on the top.
That's
Yes, it doesn't have a rim.
That's for inside oven. I have 2 of those. Those for inside ovens.
Yeah, the Dutch ovens are more for inside cooking, and it doesn't have, the thing that you could do, and I have done this, is when I do the bread really hot in my oven, I'll unscrew my knob on my lid and I'll invert my lid. Okay,
Oh,
so you could do that and it would be concave and you could set coals on that. So there is some things you can trick to maybe use it on a camp stove, you know? Yeah.
If you're the heavy fall, you could use that.
I'm sorry, Warren, what'd you say?
I'm saying if you didn't use that lid, you could use that heavy pit master fall.
Oh, that's a good idea. Just
Especially if
cover
you use
it with
the wood.
foil.
Especially if you use
But
the
could you, I don't know if it would hold, it probably would
That's
hold
pretty
the
tough.
coals.
That's pretty tough.
Yeah, it probably would hold the coals.
So what Warren is saying, instead of using the lid that comes with my pan, cover
It's
the
domed.
pan with foil and it's more
Heavy,
flat.
heavy.
Yeah. Okay, I like that.
Yeah, that would work.
You cook
That
even.
would work. Yeah, okay. So do we have any other questions? Anybody else?
You got 5 stars.
I got 5 stars. Now I want you guys, okay, I did this. I scheduled this because guess what next weekend is?
4th of July weekend.
It is. So
Perfect.
try something. Go ahead and, I noticed all the soda pop is out of on the aisle of HEB today. And I bought 1 liter of club soda, so I'll be able to make lots of biscuits and all sorts of things. But that's all that they had was, I was hoping just to get a little can of club soda because all I needed was a 1/4 cup and all they had was a 3-liter bottle. But it only cost $1, so it's okay.
So I would be using not a barbecue grill kind of fire pit like you bought, but something that's in the ground with blocks around to make like a fire pit. So
you could do that. So my husband was telling me how they did it with the Scouts when they would go camping. They would actually dig a pit in the ground, okay? And there are some recipes in this Heritage Cookbook that actually call for putting the Dutch oven, once you've got the coals, to put the Dutch oven down in it and then put dirt over it and seal it up and let it cook for a really long time, okay? So you can actually make just a pit if you want to dig up a little circle in your grass or out in the field or something, you can make a little pit that way. The other thing you could do is, like you said, just do a circle of landscape, pavers.
Yeah, that's what we have. That's what we did.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Debbie, Cindy's audio isn't working, but she does have a question. She says, let's see, can you ever stack multiple Dutch ovens?
Wow.
Good question.
Wow.
Well, I guess she's asking that question.
Yeah, I've never thought of, I've never seen a recipe for it.
I don't think it would cook evenly.
No, but if you were just warming something from the day before, you could put it in a pot above. As long as you're not needing the heat for the briquettes to brown, like to cook those biscuits, it was cooking from the top down supposedly. And so if you didn't have any of that restriction and you were just warming up something, you could probably put something on top. The problem is it's not flat enough really to do that unless again you inverted the lid. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen that, but I bet, you know, that harkens back to the Asians, how they stack things in the bamboo stack thing. So if you were warming something up, you could. The other thing is she asked where the peach cobbler comes from.
What, maybe?
Oh, so the peach cobbler that I used came from a church recipe book. You know how your churches put together cookbooks?
Yep.
But in the lodge one, in this lodge book is almost the identical thing. And so what I did is I took a picture.
What, baby?
I took a picture of the lazy cobbler is from the lodge cookbook, and then my friends down here, and you have that in your handout. Okay. Does that make
Excellent.
sense? So you can
Thank
compare
you.
the two types, what's different. This one has the brown sugar and it's got the soda. Yeah, so it's got the soda. So this one uses the juice from the peaches up above in the mixture. This one has the bubbly soda and it makes it really nice.
But
okay?
on your recipe, you didn't use the juice from the peaches, right?
Right, I used this one down here. I
Okay.
followed this one
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, yeah. Yep. So that's that. Good questions. Let me see if there's anything else. I wasn't looking at the chat. Okay. I guess that's it.
Oh, really?
Okay. Well, that's all I have. Thank you for joining me today. And I appreciate you guys coming in and attending today.